Critique of the Heritage Foundation. Project 2025 is a radical right-wing initiative orchestrated by Kevin Roberts, president of an extreme right-wing American political group known as the Heritage Foundation, and which aims to overhaul the U.S. federal government if Donald Trump wins the 2024 presidential election. Kevin Roberts serves as the president and primary spokesperson for the project. The agenda. The following is a list of 24 items that Project 2025 aims to achieve immediately following a successful election in November 2024 of Donald J. Trump as U.S. President-elect. 1. Reshape the entire government by replacing civil service workers with political appointees. This involves the termination of employment for an estimated 50,000 U.S. public service workers who do not support Donald Trump, and replacing them with workers that are supportive of Donald Trump. 2. Invoke absolute executive power. Assert absolute presidential control over the executive branch of government, effectively raising the role of U.S. President to dictator, absolved of all legal liability absolutely and without question. 3. Immediately deploy, expand, and legitimate the use of domestic military, deploying U.S. military personnel for domestic law enforcement. This means substituting the military for civil police. This is no different from martial law, where the law of the military rule is extended to the civil population. 4. Complete departmental overhaul of the United States government and placing absolute presidential control over federal bodies, agencies, and departments. 5. Absolute presidential control over the Department of Justice, which enforces federal laws, ensures fair administration of justice, and upholds civil and constitutional rights, administering justice domestically and internationally. 6. Absolute presidential control over the FBI, which enforces federal criminal law, protects United States civilians against terrorism, and is generally concerned with all matters of a national interest. 7. Absolute presidential control over the Federal Communications Commission, an independent agency of the United States government that regulates communications by radio, television, internet, and satellite across the entire United States. 8. Absolute presidential control over the Federal Trade Commission, a U.S. government organization responsible for preventing unfair or dishonest business activities and promoting fair competition in the marketplace. 9. Dismantling the United States Department of Homeland Security and substituting a new department sympathetic to Trump's cause in its place. 10. Severely reducing and eliminating environmental regulations, protections, and all eco-environmental projects. 11. Significantly cutting climate research funding. 12. Completely restructuring the National Institute of Health by overseeing all its research projects and dictating its terms for existence. 13. Significantly cutting health care across the board. 14. Abolishing the Department of Education and promoting school religious studies in the light of Christian righteousness. 15. Arresting, detaining, and deporting all illegal immigrants. This will involve apprehending illegal immigrants with the use of Trump's new military police. 16. Protect white supremacy groups and prosecute those who oppose white supremacy. 17. Ending affirmative action which seeks to promote equal opportunity for women in the workforce, racial minorities, and historically marginalized groups. 18. Implement an entirely new tariff system on all foreign imports, ending the highly valued open market environment in the United States, and opening the doors to a new age of capitalist monopolization. 19. Introduce Christian practices and values into the U.S. government, removing any separation of power between church and state. 20. The removal of all LGBTQ+ protections, rights, and laws against a significant portion of the population. 21. Put an end to the diversity, equity, and inclusion programs across the entire United States. 22. Increase the nuclear weapon stockpile and expand the missile defense system. 23. Begin placing hard limits on the definition of what NATO stands for and the responsibilities associated with these commitments, effectively putting an end to the North Atlantic Peace Treaty. 24. Reduce how the media is able to report on the activities of the president and the administration by limiting media access to the White House, effectively ending the open society. Critique of Project 2025, Ethical Flaws. 1. The project plans to reclassify civil service workers and assert absolute presidential control. This directly threatens the separation of powers between church and state and undermines the general and highly valued rule of law that protects citizens of the United States. 2. Deploying the military for domestic law enforcement and criminalizing personal freedoms violates civil liberties. 3. The proposal to cut climate change regulations and research is scientifically unsound and environmentally irresponsible. 4. Removing protections against discrimination and ending diversity, equity, and inclusion programs promotes systemic inequality and discrimination, restoring a form of institutionalized bigotry that undermines the principles of fairness and justice in society. 5. Reducing funding for Medicare and Medicaid undermines essential social safety nets and will result in a great deal of human suffering by large portions of the population. 6. The project unashamedly emphasizes the path toward complete authoritarian dictatorship in the United States. Part 3. Convincing evidence of collaboration between Kevin Roberts and Donald Trump. Kevin Roberts has openly discussed the role of the Heritage Foundation in institutionalizing Trumpism and preparing for a potential second term for Donald Trump. Roberts has stated that Project 2025 is designed to, quote, professionalize and effectively implement Trump's agenda, which reflects the project's, Roberts, and the Heritage Foundation's close alignment with Trump's political goals and agenda. Despite claims of nonpartisanship, the project's framework and rhetoric strongly support Trump's vision and policy proposals. Roberts' close involvement with the Heritage Foundation's efforts to support Trump's agenda indicates a significant level of coordination and contact. The Heritage Foundation, under Roberts' leadership, has been at the forefront of professionalizing Trumpism and preparing the infrastructure needed for Trump's potential second term. Conclusion. Project 2025 represents a dangerous shift towards absolutism, with proposals that undermine democratic institutions, civil liberties, and social equity. The ethical and logical flaws in their agenda highlight the need for vigilant resistance to ensure the preservation of democratic values and justice for all in a nation that once stood for the hope and values of a bright future for the planet. A deeply connected planetary civilization, and an ethically aware, open, honest, and free society.